So on Amazon, I thought so. I listened to this call and built out my model a little bit further, and I think the stock's worth about $1,600, which is some good upside from here. It's about $900 at the moment. But I think AWS will actually outgrow retail. So more Amazon will have more revenue from AWS than the retail business in a handful, like 5 years. So if that's surprising to you, then the rate of growth for AWS is pretty strong. And if you think about what I was talking about earlier in terms of penetration, AWS, let's take a look. AWS has revenue right now of, I don't know, 40 billion, trailing 12 months, 44 billion. And so the point here is that if you think about all technological business processes that can be automated with Amazon, you're really talking about a number that could be 500 billion or $1 trillion. And they're creating their own market in the sense that they're going to be moving from these sort of first-gen opportunities like storage and compute, which I use, S3 and EC2. If you don't know these products, these are core AWS products. And so basically, these are really kind of first gen. In fact, some of my teammates at my software company say that, well, we shouldn't use compute from AWS. We could do it ourselves. And even someone like Netflix is wasting time with storage because, they should just build their own data center. But here's the rub. I think over time, what's going to end up happening is all the AWS business will shift from storage and compute, or maybe these will even become loss leaders, or maybe they are now. And the must-have proprietary tools that they're building are the ones that are really going to be the sticky stuff that you just can't build on your own. You can't build machine learning on your own. Maybe you can if you're Netflix, but 95% of Amazon clients can't and won't build their own proprietary cool tools. I know they have a new exabyte database tool. That's not buildable on your own. There are things like that you just simply must have. So I think that you're going to have AWS continue to rock and roll, and companies like IBM, Infosys, and many others will kind of continue to crumble as Amazon eats their lunch. And then you're just driving more efficiency at actual companies. People love AWS because they don't have to spend a lot of money on technology internally. It's sort of a win-win from a customer perspective, but from an Amazon perspective, I think they have a lot of, and certainly a competitor perspective, I think they have a lot of opportunity that's not that clear vis-a-vis companies, again, like Amazon, Accenture, Infosys, Cognizant, etc. Companies that really are going to have a lot of issues. Again, some of those companies will still do fine, but I think that you're gonna be in big trouble if you need some of Amazon's really proprietary, cool new tools that they're building. Some of which, like Redshift or I don't know, I hear about a new one every day practically from my developers who go gaga over some of that stuff, like Amazon Lambda and stuff like that. Azure isn't that good, I think, compared to AWS. I agree with you. So anyway, that's the shift we're seeing. It's sort of like a shift within a really fast-growing entrepreneurial business that I think things like S3 are not that relevant. So Amazon will be roughly $1 trillion company at the price I'm predicting. So God bless them. But I like Amazon. I think, again, when it comes to trying to get scale on a compute side, they are the place to be. Scale on a storage side, again, where else would you go? But then as they get to some of the proprietary tools, I'm pretty impressed by it. So there's a website called quantnews.com. I'm going to start posting stuff from this, but I thought it was a pretty good resource actually for people who are interested in quantitative investing. So feel free to check that out, and it's got my endorsement. So shoot over some Q&A. I'm going to do that for the next 20 minutes or so. Next deep dive will be, again, a little bit about that peak Google hypothesis that I've got. I'll talk about Theranos. I really want to dive into the Federal Reserve balance sheet because I think that's kind of an interesting thing that not too many people look at. I always wanted to talk about Theranos and kind of what happened and what the lessons are there. Again, the goal here is maybe a little bit more entertainment than education, but just something to talk about and listen to and something that's interesting. And I think I have some really unique perspectives on that. In fact, maybe I'll add Valiant, Theranos and or Valiant post-mortem on kind of just what happened to these companies and how did they mess up that badly. Someone wants me to talk about ETFs. I don't understand why exactly, because ETFs are a little bit self-explanatory. There's ETNs. So a little bit of alphabet soup, but their ETN products are kind of interesting. We'll talk about that. So let's look through some Q&A. I'm gonna minimize my. Let's see here. Minimize my display there and return my glorious face here to the big screen. I'll open up some of this mail. All right, not too many questions. I thought you guys were gonna email me questions. What gives? You can email me right now, martin@thotpatrol.com, thoughtpatrol.com, and I can answer them. So one questioner, Be Great, asks, what is your take on pharma companies selling weight loss drugs? The demand is very low for these drugs. Was the obesity market misjudged? Obesity seems to be a continuing epidemic. Yeah, that's a great question. You know, obesity drugs are not selling well, and it's drugs like Brineura for diseases you've never heard of that are selling well. And I think there's sort of two things going on. First is I think there's some physician sort of nervousness around prescribing general medicines. It's sort of strange, but like drug companies no longer want to pitch primary care physicians as much. So there's just sort of this generic kind of trend against promoting drugs that way. It's just too hard to sort of target physicians, and you have to sort of blanket the country with ad campaign. And if you look at all those drugs were not launched by Big Pharma, and if they were, maybe they would have sold better. But Vivus launched their drug by themselves, no partner. Arena had a sort of mid-sized pharma, Eastside launch it, did not work well. So, you know, basically part of it is, you know, just the launch and sort of the physicians you're targeting. And the other part of it is they're just not high-impact medicines. You know, losing 10 or 20 pounds is not exactly something that they didn't do outcome studies that showed that will reduce cardiovascular events or other things like that. So that's sort of what's going on with obesity drugs. You're wise to sort of notice it, and that trend by folks like myself to focus on rare disease drugs has been very profitable. And again, you can feel secure that your high impact medicine is worth a lot. Like Brineura's $700,000 versus the obesity drug for a handful of hundreds of dollars. So in any event, there's one question. Are cryptocurrencies the new tulip bubble? It seems a new one springs up every week. So I'm studying Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. I don't know. I think that you know, this requires a deep historical understanding of what currency and fiat and things like that are. I don't think there's a simple answer to that. On the one hand, we're tempted to laugh at the ridiculousness of a entity-less coin, but at the same time, you know, there's other things that would advocate against that. And to the extent that we have this sort of very carefully traced setup of money, clearly there's some superior parts of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum that don't exist for some other currencies. So a decentralized currency could be, Bitcoin could continue to become more of a phenomenon. I think more comfortable with it if there were more sort of more of a focus on sort of backing that with something. But again, it's all hypothetical, and again, I have a lot of reading to do.